Good morning, people. This is my morning brief and some things I'm going through this morning. So, really, the only good news that I'm seeing in the markets this morning was with Boeing. There is an announcement that they are finalizing a sales deal of 100 aircraft to Delta. The announcement's supposed to come as early April. Early April. So, heads up on that. I've got an eye on Boeing here. So really, that's really the only good news I'm seeing anywhere. So basically, we are in basically a volatility box. We've been trading in a volatility box for quite some time now. Okay, and we basically now we got a triple touch to the top side, and we're coming back down off that early this morning. Okay, on this triple touch of this volatility box. So in all likelihood, we're probably gonna be coming down to the October open, the 430.44 today. So we'll see what happens on that in that front. Okay, going into the weekend, we do have news out. China is clearly taking the side of Russia this morning. And having pretty negative warnings to the West for the way that they are approaching this whole situation. And so it is clear that China is going to be on the side of Russia, which all of us who've been following my videos realizes that was going to be the case. They've just been buying their time before they had to make a public announcement. So be aware of that going into the weekend. A lot of risk. And I'm not putting a nuclear war out of the cards yet, so be aware of that. So here on the tech front here, and what I've got going on here on my studies, and same way with the last one, uh, I've got the on the 1 hour time frame. So this is your weekly webs. This when we came into this week, this was value from last week. Okay, and then I have my daily pivots overlapping that. Okay. So at this point in time right now, the developing daily pivot for today, we are currently trading on the bearish side of that. So that's why I like using those daily pivots. It gives me an idea of where price is opening in relation to where the momentum was taking it yesterday. So right now, the momentum is obviously to the weak relative to we're right here, right below that developing daily pivot, suggesting we won't have a continuation breakout day. So be aware of that in today's session. Okay. And then also, if you go over here, while I'm looking at the cues real quick here, if I bring up my TikTok chart, and I do want to point this out as well. Every one of my TikTok names are red this morning. So that's another bearish signal that tells you right initially if that's the situation that we should be technically on a daily time frame on the sell side unless something changes going into the markets. And I'm doing this video a lot later this morning because, quite frankly, the last video I had was on the absolute day. I was 3 o'clock in the morning. Is absolute lows of the session, and it looked like it was absolute carnage at that point. So I waited later this morning to do this one, so I had a better feel of what was going on in today's session. So IWM's holding out the best of the breed here. So we have a trend line here. If I go out on the daily, you can see my trend line here, and we're back testing it still. So we had this downtrend, and we broke out above that yesterday. Okay, so we closed above that trend line, but we're right here testing it as we speak, and we're right on the developing daily pivot. So let's keep a really close eye on this one today. So we are holding our developing daily pivot so far on IWM. If that thing loses that, then I mean I say it's pretty it's not looking too healthy for the markets in general. So let's definitely keep that on. I do have on the 1 hour here, right now, we're getting a momentum cross on my signal lines. Your moving averages, that's the 20 crossing the 50. So we are getting a 20 crossing the 50. And we also have a cross of our on balance volume of our moving average as well. So I'm getting multiple bearish signals here, potential bearish signals for IWM. So be aware of that, early on this morning in our session. And then finally, diamonds, because FedEx reported last night, and I thought that this could be really bad. And we do have a double top for our diamonds, our Dow Jones. Okay, so this is our breakdown. We are back inside of a volatility box. This all started late January. We're back inside this volatility box. Very easily could be coming down to the 338 area today. Just right back into this high volatility, going into a Friday session with all kinds of geopolitical risk in the weekend session. Okay, so that's just a few things that I'm looking at here. I also want to look out your ZNs. Okay, we are catching a bid in our bonds. Despite the fact we just got announced we're gonna have 6 more rate hikes this year and everything, we are have a flight to safety, and not only into U.S. equities, all of Europe uh, yields are down, all of Europe. Okay, I mean there is not a single country that the yields are up. Okay, so yeah, very strong risk aversion in the bond markets, and that can be a major tell for the markets. So be aware of that situation. There's only a few countries out there, some of the smaller countries in Asia, Mexico, just very few countries on the global stage that yields are actually taking up a little bit today. So be aware of that situation. That is tends to be a very strong leading indicator to the markets. So be aware of that situation. And then on the downside today, pre-market movers here. GameStop got hammered last night. They had their earnings, and that's one of those Reddit games. And it doesn't look that bad here on the chart, but it really took it on the chin off the numbers. And then, like I said, FedEx, very important one. It came out, and to me, if the inflation theme is real, FedEx is going to be at the core of it. So we want to definitely keep this on watch today. We haven't even hit the expected move yet to the downside. So the expected move today was 13 points to the downside. 227, that would put us at 214. Okay. So 214, that would put us down to here today just for our expected move. And, we'll see what happens. We'll go from there. And I do want to point out here also, we have an unprecedented situation. Our IYT is extremely heavily weighted right now because they constantly rotate the internal positioning these indices. The fund managers they routinely rotate these internal positionings. Right now, we have a very extreme situation where FedEx plus UPS, they're representing right around 20% of the IYT. Okay. And typically, you don't really see that big of a heavy weighting in our transports in just those two names. But we do have a unique situation today that we could actually see, considerable downside pressure on our transports. So be aware of that situation in today's uh, trading session. And XLF also, I do want to point that out with the bond yields coming off. We are bearish to the developing. We're right here right now. We're opening on the bearish side of the developing daily pivot on our transports, and that goes hand in hand with the bond market. Okay, so that's pretty much all I got to say here. Almost everything looking bearish here. We have a little bit of headlines on Boeing that could be bullish today. So keep that one in the back of your mind and stuff. But uh, uh, I know several people that yesterday afternoon they were adding puts going into today's session. So, but I'm not finding much of anything above the daily pivot except for I can't use VXX anymore. UVXY. Except for UVXY, So we are solidly above our daily pivot. And if I want to take this even further, if I can get this pull up 1 second here, I was wanting to look at versus the weekly pivot. Give me a second. And last thing I'm going to show you right here on UVXY. So we are above the quarter pivot and the monthly pivot to open the session right here. And we're well below our weekly pivot was way up here. Okay, so we're well below the weekly pivot. But initially, right here, right now, we are, like I said, above our quarter and monthly. See what happens here. I mean, coming off of an extreme low from, and so, it doesn't look like uh, we're going to get too far on the bearish side today, but you never know. I mean, and our developing weekly pivot is way up here. So if we were to close above the 1820 today, that's setting up for a very bad week next week. So right now it looks like we still got a long ways to go to make it back up to that 1820. So I do want to float that idea early on this morning, you know. So just a few things that I'm pointing out here, it's a little bit damaged here on the open, but we still got to go a long ways before, they're going to put on a lot of hedges, in my opinion, for the first of next week. So we'll see what happens, going forward. Okay. Like the video, please. Retweet it on Twitter, please. Gumby9662C. Be sure and follow me on Twitter if you can, or on YouTube and Twitter if you can. And it's the same handle, I think, on the YouTube, or it might be Income Trader. I can't remember. Income Trader might be my handle on YouTube. And then like I said, please add comments below if you're seeing stuff that I'm not seeing. But like I said, Boeing's really the only thing with some decent news today, and so be aware of that situation.